Lenovo Vibe P1. Lenovo has over the past couple of years sold at least 2 phones that have left their users satisfied on the battery front. Now, it is upping game with what it calls the ultimate business phone, one with a 4900 mAh battery. Lenovo Vibe P1 is beautifully crafted with aluminium metal that looks more like HTC One series smartphones. The front panel has a speaker grove and camera on the top front and capacitive touch buttons with a fingerprint sensor in between. The back panel looks so premium with its aluminium body. The fine lines of design that iPhone 6 and HTC One series smartphones have got adds beauty to the back cover. It gives a rich look to the device too. The back panel has got a camera and dual-tone LED flash. The whole phone weighs 187 grams, which is a bit heavier than the normal. The powerful battery might have added weight to the body. The left side of the phone has a unique battery-saving mode switch that is claimed to be doubling the battery life of the smartphone by Lenovo. On the right, it has the power button and volume rocker buttons. There is a 3.5mm headphone jack on the top and the speaker along with microSP port on the bottom. The display on the Vibe P1 did impress. It is a Full HD, 1920 x 1080 pixels, IPS LCD unit with a Gorilla Glass 3 screen for protection. The color saturation was spot on and users can even tweak the color settings by heading to the display color balance section, where they can opt for default, comfort, super bright and even a custom mode. The IPS LCD panel had good viewing angles and was pretty sharp. While we liked the color reproduction of the display, something that was not so impressive were its brightness levels. This in turn affected its outdoor performance and left us cringing to read notifications and messages in direct sunlight. Adding to this was the tricky auto brightness that forced us to turn it off most of the time. On the Vibe P1M we found a vibrant display that was brighter than that on the P1 but lost out due to bad viewing angles. The home button on the P1 is a physical key that can be pressed. It also houses a fingerprint sensor, which is one of the very few in this price range to have a fingerprint sensor. The only smartphone that is cheaper and has a fingerprint sensor is the CoolPad Note 3, which costs us $8,999. The fingerprint sensor on the Vibe P1 isn't just a sensor that exists merely to add to the specs list. But instead, it is a really capable fingerprint sensor that is quite fast and sensitive. In order to unlock your device, you just need to wake the phone either by pressing the home key or power button or double tapping the screen, if you have enabled, and then placing your registered finger on the button. It quickly senses it and unlocks the phone almost instantaneously. However, there is a backup password or pattern you can set in case you aren't able to use the fingerprint for authentication. Overall, we were quite surprised and pleased with the speed and accuracy of the sensor, especially from a mid-range smartphone. The Vibe P1 has a 13-megapixel camera with dual-tone LED flash and phase detection autofocus. The smartphone focuses on objects quite quickly and quite closely. The detailing is quite good and the color reproduction is spot on as well. The dynamic range is a bit low, but luckily there is a very capable HDR mode that really brings out the details, especially in the shadows. You will have to hold the device steady for longer, but on most occasions we didn't get any ghosting. The camera does get a bit noisy under low light, however it isn't too bad. The dual-tone LED flash is quite powerful and gives better skin tones when taking photos of people. The front 5-megapixel camera too is pretty decent, but does tend to be a bit laggy under low light, but it manages to keep the noise under control. The quality and detailing is good enough for social media, however don't expect to be taking prints or anything. The camera interface is quite easy to use. When holding the phone in portrait mode, you have the mode switch on the left, the shutter key and video recording key in the middle, as well as the gallery shortcuts button on the right. At the top left, you have the settings shortcut, while the right side has the camera switch as well as toggles for the HDR mode and flash. Users can capture photos in both 16:9 and 4:3 aspect ratios in maximum and normal resolutions. You can also specify the photo quality. It also allows you to choose touch to capture or timed capture modes. Users can also make use of metering modes, guidelines and triaxial leveling features. Videos can be recorded at a maximum resolution of 1080p. The video quality is pretty decent but does lack a bit in terms of detailing. The audio is quite good as there is a dedicated noise-cancelling microphone as well. The Vibe P1 comes with 32 GB of onboard memory that is further expandable by up to 128 GB using microSD. The Lenovo clearly is the leader here as the phone provides more space and a microSD card slot while being the cheapest. The Moto X Play and the OnePlus X provides 16 GB internal memory with microSD expansion up to 128 GB but at Rs. 16,999 and Rs. 18,499 respectively. The Moto X Play also has a 32 GB variant with microSD support but that costs Rs. 19,999. Out of 32 GB of storage, users get around 24.02 GB of free space upon boot. Users can also make use of the USB OTG functionality to connect and transfer contents to and from the device. The Vibe P1 is powered by an octa-core Snapdragon 615 which is the same chipset as the one on the Moto X Play. The OnePlus X however comes with a Snapdragon 801 chipset from last year. Along with the 615 processor, the P1 also has an Adreno 405 GPU and 2 GB of RAM. The OnePlus X has 3 GB of RAM but the Vibe P1 is no slouch. We didn't face issues when doing daily tasks and even when multitasking. There wasn't any lag nor did the phone hang up on us. The Vibe P1 is one of the few phones that managed to take you by surprise. The specs sheet is quite impressive but what is even more impressive is the fact that the smartphone manages to perform just as well in real life. It manages to perform as well if not better in most areas and brings a fingerprint sensor along.